Good evening, everyone. This is Denise here with Global Voice 2012. Today is August the 13th, and tonight we have a very special program for you. The subject is, are you on the catastrophic or positive timeline? We have a very special guest with us this evening, Alfred Webre III, and he will be joining Drake for this 2-hour program, and it's going to awaken all of you beyond all of your expectations. Drake will be having his discussion with Alfred. Countless numbers of you have been following and now are listening to Drake, and you're about to find out that there is a whole lot more to Drake than you ever imagined. And about Alfred Webre III is a futurist, and he's an author of Exopolitics, Politics, Government, and Law in the Universe. His book is available at universebooks.com. It is a book that founded the field of exopolitics, the science of relations among intelligent civilizations in the multiverse. Exopolitics includes a case study of human contact with an advanced civilization on Mars. And with that, I would like to give you a very warm welcome. Alfred, it is our pleasure to have you join us this evening.
Oh, well, thank you. You know, I'm so pleased to be here. I am sitting on my back deck in Vancouver, BC. It's a wonderful afternoon. We're surrounded by greenery here. We're in the midst of a rainforest. They're actually building a couple of new houses right around us, and you'll hear the sound of hammering. But I feel that that's good because just so that people know that work is continuing on this planet, life is continuing on this planet, you know, we're on a positive, normal timeline. And just to get out of this kind of catastrophic construction that the elite, and I think a very specific a civilization of gray extraterrestrials have dropped in on humanity. But we can get into that later on in the program.
Well, thank you, Alfred. I want to very warmly welcome you. We're so glad to have you with us. And Drake,
great.
Welcome, Drake.
Thanks. I'm kind of looking forward to the discussion. I think Alfred and I have a lot to talk about, and I think I have given some people a little bit of salt for their oats in terms of scientific knowledges that I hold. People don't realize that I do. And I'm looking forward to this.
Yes, we've been anticipating this with enthusiasm for quite some time now. So with that, Alfred, would you like to begin, or Drake, did you have something you wanted to share with our audience before we get started, or?
Well, I would like to express that part of what we're discussing tonight was talked about on our last show yesterday with the normal Sunday show. And basically I covered a lot of the preliminary ideology concerning how to basically control the reality that we're in. So that, I think, probably is extremely pertinent to this. So,
Good. Now, Drake, for those of us who were not able to attend yesterday's program, I was actually writing an article for Veritas magazine called "Are You on a Positive (parenthesis) or Catastrophic Timeline?" Veritas magazine being in Australia, so I couldn't listen into your show. Could you summarize that for us, please?
Basically what I did was I combined a combination of music to set tone, and it was basically a broad base, layman explanation of a combination of the mind control idea and what a person can do about it to change that, irrespective as to what it is that is going on that is not to a person's liking. And it doesn't matter if it's a situation or solid object or what. This pertains to everybody. And basically, it intimates what actions a person can take in terms of using various abilities that everyone has in order to be able to affect a combination of situation, physical continuity, and that can be anything, problems that you might be having or stuff that you would like to see be a certain way. It basically goes into the fact to exercise the capability of
Right.
Primarily, somebody who uses the power of envisionment has the capability to affect the reality in which they are. I predicated most of this on the movie The Matrix, in terms of being able to know not just where you are at, but for anyone of any background, irrespective as to education or whatever, how a person can actually implement the process and be successful with it. And that's primarily what the show covered.
Now you actually shared with me that you had spent some time with, or perhaps lived with, the originator of The Matrix that then was made into the Matrix movie. Could you share some of that with us?
Well, the differentiation is between application of in relation to what people look at as being a reality, and this science supersedes even the conditions that people are used to in terms of reality. Solid objects are not as real as they would seem. It's, as I stated before, similarly to the program known as the Matrix, where you have artificially created scenarios, objects, the whole nine yards primarily, under a controlled situation where people do not understand how to advance out of that. And that was the primary, one of the primaries in the movie The Matrix. Also within the basic writing itself. Now, the difference is a combination of the outcome and the actual learning process was not something of discovery for the individual that through the process. It was given, a lot of the things were given to that individual so that they could accelerate their progress within the system.
Right. So what you're saying is that we're actually inside of an artificial construction within an artificial construction. The primary artificial construction being the time-space hologram, and then within that there's a secondary artificial construction, which is the matrix, which is a superimposition of dimensional power, hierarchical powers to try and control and enslave us. Is that a fair assessment of what you're saying?
Yeah, that's pretty close. There's a few minor differentiations, but nothing of importance.
Right. And so what has been your major finding of how to, quote, become aware of and then escape the matrix, that is the controlling framework? Okay,
well, the Neo, the hero in the movie, was basically let alone in a lot of ways, although trained in some, to discover the answers to what the matrix was and what to do with it. The difference is between his discovery, which is not explained, and the difference between the explanation of what it is and how it works in reality. Now, the basis of this comes from several experiences of my own and my teaching the process to others who are absolutely 100% successful with it. The situational change can be something that someone has problems with or simply thinks should be different than what it is. The ideology of solid objects comes into play where in the matrix things were not as such real, although they seem to be. And the basis of affecting a person in terms of not being able to fight back against something that they could not see, they could not perceive or see effectively. In other words, you've got a sort of, I don't know, empty movie theater, and you get to pick and the audience is picked for you, and you're required to have a performance on stage, so to speak. This can be either, as the Matrix stated, where people were turned into batteries for the benefit of machines, which is incorrect, or it can be a usury situation, which is what we have in reality, where you have a group of controllers that actually implement everything within your life, and which is similar to the Matrix, but a little bit different in that you're permanently in this in a reality sense, rather than something that's just a computer program or a hologram.
Right. Now, in the sense that we're, quote, permanently in this, then can we become controllers, or can we deconstruct that matrix?
Well,
in your opinion, or how?
Okay. It's not a question of becoming controllers so much, other than your personal self and experiences. It's not so much a deconstruct of the matrix as it is understanding what it is and having control over it. The control comes within your own personal experience. In other words, say you've got enormous problems, irrespective as to what they are. It could be nothing to eat. It could be you've been unemployed for a long time. It could be that living in your car with your kids is not a good idea. It could be that you're getting ready to go into foreclosure. There's all kinds of things where officials may have attempted to influence you through taking your driver's license for whatever reason and this sort of thing. The differential is being able to not only see what you want or know, I need at least this part, and doing something different than what you have done. As most people understand, doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results is ridiculous. You hit your thumb with a hammer enough times, and you learn not to do that for varying reasons. That's the same application here, and it is almost as simple as not hitting your finger with a hammer again. So you change something, and then in the process, you basically use what's called envisionment in order to change it. In other words, you actually recreate what your future would be according more to your tastes and what is needed.
Right. So this is a program, say, which Carl Johan Kalaman, the University of Washington professor, who has written a number of books on the Mayan calendar and who has described the Mayan calendar as actually a map for human consciousness. He would very much agree with this because he says that after a certain date, which he programmed as October 28, 2011, that's a date at which he says, for example, the interdimensional portal at the core of our universe is broadcasting consciousness waves of unity consciousness as opposed to duality consciousness, so that we now can, in our reality, begin to, as you said, much more consciously create what our reality path is and what our future is. So this is a time when we can individually and collectively begin to, through intention, create the reality we want. Is that more or less what you're saying?
Yeah, and the interesting thing about it is that the Bible states that if thine eye is singular, then you will see. Then you will know, among other things. This is not just written biblically, it's in several belief systems too. The ideology, as best I can understand it, in terms of the awesome power, is that of creation. So this means that what you're doing is exercising a certain portion of the power to create in terms of a combination of realities. And what that means is that an individual, when they change their future, they also change the futures of other people. When people see a person doing this, first thing you're going to do is be curious, and they're going to wonder why. It may take a few cold beers to get around to where they'll ask you. Eventually, they will ask you, how did you manage to accomplish such and such when you're in this position? How did you manage to get out of that? Most people are going to go, yeah, right. Sure. Well, there's a difference. And if somebody really would like to know, they get to do a little homework. They need to understand that the solid objects that everybody looks at and experiences all day long, to include themselves, in terms of atomic physics, you're full of holes. It's mostly space. The illusion of the idea of a solid object in terms of something not being there, if you've got two magnets and you try to put like poles together, you feel a solid resistance to that effort. This is similar to something you cannot see necessarily, but you know is there. And in that respect, then, if an individual has tried everything else and feels free enough to experiment a little bit, then I recommend the envisionment process in order to change the reality, not only where they find themselves in terms of situation, but it can deal with a combination of things. It can influence other people to do things they normally would not do. It can influence the situation in which you find yourself, going from a car with your kids sleeping in it to someplace to live, etc. So what the outlook a person needs to look at this with is one singular thing that they would like to see changed, and simply get a picture of it. The more detailed, the clearer the picture, the more color in it, the more real it is. See that thing at least once every day, preferably several times.
Now, this is sort of, however, a chicken and egg issue, because how does one then go creating a vision that is a vision that is commensurate with the liberated state, i.e., how do I know my full potential when I've been inside the matrix, and how do I construct this vision? You know, say I have a colleague who was leaked to him in 1980 by his father, who was a consultant to the CIA, and who had been told classified information that through time travel he had been pre-identified as a future U.S. president. You know that now, so there's a certain probability of truth to that information. So he has formulated a vision that he's going to be a future U.S. president. So he's declaring for president in 2016, and he has been given a vision because his father leaked classified information to him from the CIA time travel program in 1980, which had denied him, unlike to Obama, who they told his mother in 1971 and groomed Obama, but they're not doing it to my colleague, Andy Bashago, because he had been pre-identified as a whistleblower. So Andy has a vision. Now, those of us who weren't leaked things like that, how do we go about and visualizing our goals, our vision of the future when we're inside the matrix and don't know fully the full goals?
Okay. One of the things that people do is they accept things on faith. And by that I mean they pray to a God they can't see. Usually this is a private deal. Most people won't admit that they do for varying reasons to other people. The manner in which a person changes their reality is similar to a change matrix where in a scene you would see something and know that it is not the way it should be, and using the power of envisionment cause that to be changed. Now you have to remember, first of all, this reality, as it is called, is, to all intent and purposes, an artificial subject and object, not something that is actual reality. Now, when you get into matter, you'll find that most of the matter is fluid in some form or another. That means that the paint's never dry, which means you can change whatever picture you see. Now, if a person looks at their life as a picture, you're right where you decided to be, period. Now, there's several things that goes into this. Oh, I didn't want it to happen this way. It wasn't my fault. Well, yes, it is, and here's how that works. We have two levels, or base levels, of mind. One is conscious and one is subconscious. Knowingly or not, your subconscious primarily directs you in the base desires that you have. And that can be just about anything. Lots of money, nice house, decent car, or even having a job or whatever. It's not limited to what people would perceive. In other words, when you envision this, that picture becomes a part of your subconscious. Your subconscious then will direct your actions towards that goal. So you have two things working for you. You have initiated power beyond what you can understand, and you don't have to know everything. Simple believers who believe in powers beyond themselves go and heal people, or somebody comes back to life, or, pick something. And you can find stories in the Bible. You can find real stories of this. You can find near-death experiences. There's tons of evidential things you can look at. So what you'll find is that the limitation on a person is what that person has decided those limitations are. If you do not want to be treated like a machine pounding nails all your life, and you think that there's something better, then look around as to seeing what might be your best suited adventure in terms of changing that. What that picture would be, I'd like to be this, where I don't have to do a lot of physical labor. Or it could be a situational change where many factors, and what people have to understand is that if, and this is a decision you have to make, the Creator, people call it God, Allah, there's a lot of names. When you decide that there may be something out there greater than you that influences it all, and you specifically use a system of attaining that's beyond your sensus realm perception and capability to understand, you take a leap of faith. A faith healer is a good example of that. When they go to a person who has problems, whatever they may be, and heals that person. There's a lot of stories that go along with that. However, once you become a master of the creational process of envisionment, you then can do the same things that you've heard stories about, irrespective as to what the complexity of the situation or attainment might be. And it's simply, try it, you'll like, kind of thing.
Now, do you think, from what you know, that we can, tonight or today, this afternoon, on this radio program, co-create a vision of, say, what we want this planet to be on a positive timeline, that then we can propagate out to all the listeners, and then that we can just follow through on until it happens? For example, I have a vision, which I ask you to join in, of our planet Earth liberated from all exploitative, hierarchical, ecocidal, genocidal forces and influences, abundant, safe, giving everyone and everything they want and need. And is that something that is an adequate vision, and on a positive, non-catastrophic timeline? Is that something that a vision that we can collectively just hold and co-create over an indefinite period of time, say through 2025 and beyond?
Absolutely. What people have to understand is what the effect would be of the apocalyptic predictions you keep seeing on the internet. You hear about it in the news, everybody's shooting everybody and that sort of thing. The thing that you want to consider, especially if you've got children, what would you see as their future? Do you want them wandering around chasing rats to eat, as was shown in the Terminator, where we're battling machines and whatever? I mean, do you want to see the apocalypse that apparently took place in the movie The Matrix? What is it that you would look to for a future? And if you envision happy children, normalcy, and I'm not talking about what we have now. That ain't normal, believe me. When you got a variety of a small group of what would be considered elites that operate without morals, being in control, or would you rather have somebody you trust, like Grandma? Whom do you know that you could entrust having the nice that you would like for your children, being able to run and play in a green grass yard, not having to worry about things blowing up or gunshots, not having to worry about planetary collisions, not having to be concerned that at one point or another, as the one generation passes, that the next generation is going to have a worse time than previous generations. It goes to a combination of that. It goes to, would you like to live to a ripe old age in comfort? Or do you want to think about having to eat dog food because you don't get enough to survive on? The considerations of these things puts the individual in a more positive time sense. Nobody wants to get roasted by a solar flare. Who wants to be crispy critter? Nobody. Okay, so therefore, that's out. No, that is not cool. We don't want to do that. So, what do you want? No solar flare. Well, bingo. And just that simplistically, when people say no, or I don't think so, and they say it enough in the right manner, and the right number of people, which can be any of two or more, agree, then it shall be done. Now, a a lot of people do not understand about, well, I'm supposed to know how it works. Well, there is science involved, and you can get into that to a point where you get lost in it. And the reason you can is because that science is just as infinite as the creation itself in terms of the creator. So when you take the infinite and apply it to the finite, then the infinite always wins. You and God make a majority, or in the Great Spirit, you and your envisionment put you in a position where you tap the powers of the creation. And you can, from that point, adjust them according to your picture. And as I said, you have to have a well-defined picture. A place where there's plenty of work if you want it. A place where a person's talent, abilities, and life experience come together and they have something to do. A society where food, where clothing, where a decent place to live are supplied because you go out and do something for a living. And the living is enjoyment. Not having to worry about food, not having to worry about paying bills, not having a financial structure at all. If you want to get into a utopian idea, that would pretty much be it to me. And this is readily available. And by readily available, I would suggest everybody who listens now, or everybody who gets this on the archive, I strongly suggest that you pick something. It doesn't even have to be you. Pick something, anything you want, and see it change to what you think would be the best picture, the best future, the best of what that direction would be. Envision that. Get a solid, good, clear picture. Do that continually. There's a song called Dream Until Your Dreams Come True is one of the phrases in it. Called Dream On. And the idea of being able to actually make both structural and physical changes in things through mere thought gets into areas of what are called mind over matter. Well, a person does have certain limitations. You can only concentrate so hard, but if you know how to do it, you can levitate a pencil or a beer can or something. You can influence someone else's thought so that they do something different than what they were doing. There's a whole lot of little tiny tests that you can perform. Now, in that light, after you play with it a little bit in ways that are harmful, not harmful, you find you can. Okay, well, I can. Well, that's nice. Then you bump up against the problem of the limitation. Now, part of the limitations, as I stated before, are the individual, that individual's beliefs, that individual's acceptance of the matrix limitation. A good example of that in life is, have you ever noticed when you're just getting ahead, all the bills go up? That's planned. They do this. They see future as well as we do. However, the problem they have is they cannot tap into the creational power. That is their major downfall and the reason that they will not continue. So the second part of this is, you find these little things you can do. Imagine if God said, cool, go for it. Imagine if it was an accepted picture, because it does no harm. It's something good. There's not too much more in terms of qualification except to prove it. And if you want to challenge the Creator, I haven't found any challenges that are run from by the Creator. None of them. So
now, aren't we in fact a holographic component of, quote, the Creator or Source?
To an extent, yes, and to an extent, no. That is you're getting into an area of perception that most people probably will shy away from. And the reason they will is because they know they're real. No, you don't. I can understand levitating a pencil maybe. That's pretty far out. But me not being real, they probably won't accept that. However, You got to remember, the matrix is the matrix. You are not individually as you seem to be. This is stated over and over in teachings from thousands of years of knowledge and learning, and yet people will shy away from that. It's what is not understood in terms of how the power that you were given originally can be made to be used. This is what the explanation of envisionment, or the object of envisionment, is. How you can stay like you are for now. We got changes coming up, I can tell you that, but for now, as you are right this minute, if you got some kind of something you need to address, get busy with the picture. Start doing it, and do it often. The more often, the better, because the more often you do it, the more influence you garner, because each time you envision, the more real it becomes. Now, I'll give everybody an interesting example of this. I used to be involved in astrophysics on a fairly decent level. I used to contact people at NASA, among others. One of the things I've noted is that we were supposed to have a problem coming, and this thing went from simple rock in the sky, or asteroid as it's called. It metamorphed into a planet. Ooh, that's going to be worse. Then it changed from a planet into a compact red dwarf sun with extraordinary powers. It was going to come through and just strip all the dirt right off the whole planet. Everything would be just flat, leveled. And it might even bump into us. That was another part of it. Well, the bump into us quit real quick. Any astrophysicist or anybody who has any common sense about turning a corner with a car can follow the trajectory and say, that it don't work that way, guy. You know, you're going to spin out. Okay. In other words, you can only go around a curve at such and such a speed without the centrifugal force shooting your butt off into Gaga land. Over the guardrail you go, kind of thing. Now, all of a sudden, we've gone from a red dwarf back to a planet again. Now, how did that happen? Well, one of the things I did was take issue on a couple of websites with the idea of the brown dwarf at all. Now it's changed back to a planet. I would like to have some of these, quote, officials make up their mind so we would have some ideas to what we're dealing with. It's beginning to get comical, and the reason it is that the influence of the timeline, and I wasn't the only one objecting to this, the idea of making something in terms of a positive result, positive timeline, non-destructive, means that you change the reality of it through simply believing it's supposed to be like this. I do not want to have to settle the ground to hide from these things. So, I don't, that ain't going to happen.
Now, what I'd like to do is just right here jump in and segue and agree with what you're saying and introduce a footnote. And just to show you how extraordinary things are, this is from an article of mine that I've completed for Veritas magazine in Australia. It's embargoed until November, December 2012, which means that they're going to publish it, but I can talk about it here on the air. And it has a wild card conclusion, which I'm looking at right now, and that is the catastrophic timeline, quote unquote, which includes the brown dwarf and all the topsoil being blown off and 6.5 billion people moving into the next dimension and losing their bodies and all of that. All of that is actually a synthetic quantum environment, which is a hologram, a holographic environment architected by a species of gray extraterrestrials. And this is kind of a working hypothesis that came up at the end of this article that looks at three probes into the year 2013. One is the psychic Edgar Casey that saw a global coastal event, boom, and I documented that in a book I wrote 38 years ago called The Age of Cataclysm. Then the second was in a 1971 DARPA chronovisor time travel probe to the year 2013, which found the U.S. Supreme Court building under 100 feet of brackish water. And then the third was a 2010 Foresight Institute remote viewing study with the largest number of military-trained remote viewers in history. And that found 39% of the remote viewers found a catastrophic future with the U.S. Capitol, destroyed and under deep water, the Sydney Opera House, depending on whether they had been ET disclosure or not, either the Sydney, Australia Opera House didn't exist, or if it existed, there were people streaming out of it. The U.S. government was completely underground. There was no food. There was no transportation, i.e. another global coastal event. Well, what we discovered is that two whistleblowers from the 1980 CIA teleportation program, Andrew D. Basiago and Bernard Mendez, who was actually, he claims to be an assistant to former U.S. President Richard Nixon, who was very interested in this gray extraterrestrial teleportation program. They discovered that the gray ETs created over 150, I think the exact number was 153 or something, what they call synthetic quantum environments, SQEs, around both in space and under the surface of the planet. And these were like mini environments. So they would be a sequestered, a synthetic quantum environment, for example, of the planet in the year 2013 after a brown dwarf had come through and they had been a global coastal event. And all of this had happened. So the wildcard interpretation that I have come up with is that, quote, all of these, the Edgar Casey, the 1970s DARPA chronovisors, and the Farsight Institute's remote viewers were all picking up on a synthetic quantum environment, a hologram architected by a species of gray extraterrestrials that depicts Washington, D.C. as decimated by a global coastal event in 2013. Now, if that's the case, then there is no catastrophic timeline. It's all a gray extraterrestrial psychological operation on humanity, which they did, and what it resulted in, Drake, was the expenditure of about $3 trillion or more since 1971 in black budget money on the creation of 174 or more DUMBs, and that's really dumb, deep underground military bases to house the U.S. government, all the technocrats, the financial elite, the political elite, all the police forces, all the military underground, when the supposed brown dwarf comes through in 2013, because DARPA had cited it in 1971, but all that they cited was a gray extraterrestrial synthetic quantum environment, which, by the way, people can go to exouniversity.org and view our panel on there with Andy Basiago and Bernard Mendez. They brought in the astronauts, the leading astronauts, and brought them up to some of these SQEs. The astronauts call them slots. And this was actually sort of a gray psychological program, an experiment that they did on humanity, which the elite and the military fell for, and they spent $3 trillion on building all these underground bases. There is no brown dwarf, there is no cataclysm, and everybody who's fallen for it has fallen for a gray ET psyop. How about them apples, Drake?
Well, I'm going to explain some things people don't know. That's exactly true. That's the correct. Now, two things about this. One is that those gray ETs are extraterrestrial. That needs to be taken into account for one reason and one reason only. These particular turkeys ain't nice, no matter how you slice it. They will do anything for a measure of control and position, which includes the PSYOPs operation. Now, the neat part about it is that they've done this on other planets with other populations successfully. I want everybody to think about that real close. Now, the other part is this. According to the broadcast strength, and that's a funny, funky off-take term, according to the strength of the vision that they are putting out or broadcasting, depends on whether or not it overrides lesser timelines. That's something everybody does not quite get. It's sort of like having a CB radio too powerful or too close to your cell phone when you try to use it. You're going to have some transmission problems. The interesting part about this is that because it's holographic and it is an open program, that's something a lot of people are not aware of. The openness of the program is the decision within individuals' mind as to the events they require to see in reality. So with a stronger signal than others, the percentage would be probably double, maybe 3 times what the actual attachment to that signal, as you refer to it, in terms of brown dwarfs or whatever coming. So you're not talking 39%, you're talking 13% in reality. That 13% would be overridden by the 22%, 21 to 22% of the positive timeline. Well, when you get a lot of people believing these sorts of things, then you come up with a problem. And that problem is that the positive timeline is overridden. If you are not able to take any machine or individual and focus specifically in the direction you are looking to see, which is the most probable outcome, not the one that's projected, not the one that's broadcast, but the most probable outcome. If people look at that, you're going to find that it runs up, it starts matching that 39% on the positive timeline. The negative timeline starts falling into the single digits. It runs actually around 5 to 7%. Now, there's a reason for that, and this is called harmonic influence. One of the base wave harmonics or signal frequencies of our planet is right around 7.5 cycles per second. When you do a multiple of that, and it is what's called an additional harmonic. This is not like your normal harmonics. You can take harmonics and add them together. When you get the right frequencies, and there would in this case be somewhere between 5 and 9, take 2 of those and add them together, they go into the simple position of multiplying the output. When you have several of these, that multiplication is heavy. So you take a 5 to 7%, somewhere in that area, and it becomes 39. It's not difficult when you understand the science is involved. Now, the second part of this is that this is a real or reality-based science. As I said, these ETs have done this before and been successful in subjugating planets. The third part, and the element people are not aware of, are the controlling mechanisms, or the veils as they're referred to in terms of psychic capability. In Operation Looking Glass, they found this to be anywhere near December of 2012, this year, when they used Operation Looking Glass, which is a forerunner of the smaller envisioning equipment you're familiar with now, you find that they came up against a flash of white light and a physical bump. And then it just stayed white. Now, the other part of it was that the mechanism itself used extraordinary power. Problem was that the extraordinary power only was able to be used to a certain extent. The bleed-off started causing seismic anomalies, as they called it, in the areas of these experiments. The more they used it, or the more power they applied to it, the worse the seismic event. So they started shutting down the project. Then they came up with the looking glass that people are familiar with from your research, and that is an ancient device. The original was done in 1780-something. There's a movie about it with Price in it, and a few others, one of his strange sci-fi or, believe it or not, vampire-type movies. But it's accurate. It also shows some of the original photography. Now, there are photographs of the actual instrument online. It's not totally complete. The one that was in the movie is not totally complete, but the mechanics of it are not only right on, that is the instrument. This is similar to the one that they took out of the Great Pyramid during the war, the World War we had, that was secreted away, and part of the reason that we have the small device that we have now. We've learned to be able to take mechanical operations and convert them into electromagnetic pulsations, etc., called integrated circuits or ICs. Slight mechanical adjustments can be made in terms of any moving device so that you can see what it might be able to be done if you would do it electronically. A good example is the wristwatch. You have in it an IC. Electronic wristwatch has a 555 or variation integrated circuit. That thing is as accurate as the atomic clock. It's just a little bitty thing. Now, over the years, they have been able to compress and compact these. They've been able to make them more powerful. You add advanced technology such as you have with ETs who have done this before, and they go, "Oh, wow, man, that's a nice one. And let's turn that on and see what damage we can do for you." Bingo. And this is where the difference between just having it out there and somebody producing it, the reasons for it, and just a little of the science behind it. People don't understand that the stronger signal gets picked up because it is not the mechanism that they have. They never got the directional portion of that. That was taken by a high priest. I know where it's at because I talked to him. And these things are some of the ancient sciences that I decided to study so that I would have some idea as to what's going on. Then I turned that around and said, okay, now what exactly can I do with this mess? And started studying that. So I came up with this well-documented envisionment system that's been used for thousands of years. It goes back past recorded history as far as we're concerned. It's written in stone in several places. So it's not something new, but something that the ancients knew all about. It's about the capability of an individual to understand the Mayan calendar in terms of what it really states. Because a lot of people don't know, the Mayan calendar goes on for thousands of years beyond the limitations that have been put on it. They say time ends in 2012, but the calendar goes to 2045. Oops. That means that there's some kind of funny going on. Now, there are no incidents that it can read because there is a difference or a shift coming. Not an end, but a beginning, which is coming. That's pretty much.
Now, in terms of the envisionment process, it sounded like what you were urging people to do, and I understand it, is really to reach in for their own creativity and find their own vision, so that there would be like an Adam Smith invisible hand of visions that then would come and create a collective vision that would in turn lead us toward the maximal collective positive timeline. Now, so there's that path there. Now, there's another path, because our visions have been essentially hijacked, as you know, by the dark side. And they have put in their vision for, say, the last 26,000 years of collectively putting in negative and catastrophic visions, keeping us in a world of war, disease, crime, and poverty. And all of that is their vision to keep us enslaved and to create their hierarchical world of, wealth, where they want to depopulate us and create an elite theme park as the next cycle, which we're not about to let it happen, right? So, yeah. So now, what this is my question, and it's a real question. It's not a rhetorical question, because I understand exactly what you're doing. Do you recommend that there's an invisible hand and that everybody just kind of follow their own creativity in maxing out on their own vision and just pushing with that? Or should we create these collective meditations and visions where we collectively say, well, we want X, Y, or Z. We want to capture the presidency in 2016, and we want to abolish the Fed, and we want to do all these kind of things that will, change all the policies and demilitarize, denuclearize, and, de-elitize, de-hierarchize the whole shebang. What is your recommended path on that?
Well, it's multifold, and the reason it is that you have what is called catastrophic, and you have the non-catastrophic timeline, basically. You either have love or fear. One of the two can be the origin of what you're doing. The, quote, good, simplistic, because you love yourself, kids, even the wife, even though you probably hide in the garage from her on the weekends or whatever, and you would like to see X. Okay, let's make it a field of grass, nice meadow with flowers, and the kids playing and having a good time out there, whatever they're doing. Each individual's take or picture is going to be slightly different. It's not going to be the same as anyone else's, because it is individually yours, just like your fingerprints are yours and yours alone. You won't find matching sets anywhere. So, you have two courses. You can either go into the negativity, where you creep up and kill people in the middle of the night, as some people do, where you blatantly pull out your AK-47 and go take all the money out of the bank, have wars, etc. Or you can have the good timeline. Now, just as diverse as individuals are, just as different as individual people are the diversity of these timelines. But there is a strict division between positive and negative, and it makes no sense to want to have pain, suffering, etc., or the gobbledygook we have called government, or the mess that we've got called finance. It makes no reasonable sense, even in the negative timeline, to want to. Do you like to suffer? I mean, do you intentionally go turn the stove on and burn your finger because do you enjoy that, or do you teach your children to be careful with fire so that they don't burn themselves? This is the difference. In a very basic, simplistic decision. After that decision, then you go to, what do you want? What do you see as a need, a desire, that which you would have if you could make it that way? And what you have is, because of the strict division, you have on one side the negative timeline, on the other the positive, and it's a cumulative effect, meaning that those things that are good, nice, pure, ain't many pure anymore, but the things that you would have that you know are what your kids, your grandkids, your relatives, or somebody, even somebody you might not even like, you don't think they should be set on fire with gasoline, then what do you think should happen? Maybe that person could change their ways a little bit, adjust themselves slightly, maybe even talk to you and find out what the difference is. And it don't mean you got to be best buddies with the worst turkey on the block. But that worst turkey on the block is partially that way because everybody thinks negatively about that person. When people start thinking a little positively, hey, give him the benefit of the doubt. I don't think he's such a bad guy. Then you start moving yourself from negative to positive in that person, in what you hold that person to be. That person then, and this has been proven scientifically and otherwise, actually starts implementing the changes for the positive that everybody knew that the person probably had in them anyway. And you actually change that person and their whole life. Okay, the same thing's true. Your kids, you, the job you wanted, a job, a house, acquiring the capability to understand how the positive side works. Okay, is there a God? He's out there somewhere, but I sure can't find his address. Don't know his phone number. But I do know that as an all-powerful being, which is supposedly, according to all belief systems, he can take individual interest. He can also set up sciences that cause things to happen that are not the norm. That's like when the kid falls off the bike, is 2 blocks away. Mom knows their kid busted their knee. She knows this. There's no question. She, in a lot of those cases, knows exactly where he's at when she had no idea 2 minutes ago, and goes over and rescues her child. Okay? If that is acceptable to people's minds, then let's take it a step further. If that goodness, that love, that caring, that wanting to make the baby quit crying by seeing to its needs is ingrained in us in terms of good, then what is all this gobbledygook about the negative? It's real simple. It's a decision. But taking action on that and doing it correctly, that's been the problem because, well, I mentioned on the show that there's a thing, CD, that these people, this one group sells, that's called The Secret. And it contains exactly what I put in the show. It contains exactly what we're talking about here, envisionment and the power thereof and what you can do with it, and that the fact that there is no basic limitation except that you may do no harm. Ain't nothing wrong with that as far as I'm concerned. Think about not ever having to have an argument with a wife ever again. That might be pretty nice for some people. Think about having kids that behave. And what do you want? I know, peace and quiet. Most parents, they don't care about justice. They just want peace and quiet, and they'll lock their kids in the trunk or something to attain that. But what I'm saying is the child's acting that way. They're acting out something that is the same thing as that negative timeline. The stress, distress, distrust, obvious dislike of those who are different. That guy's got to be a crook. The idea that nothing is pure anymore. Well, there still is purity. The purity is contained in the little small voice that keeps telling you that ain't what you're supposed to do. It's called a conscience, the exercise of it. You follow that, and you are not going to be very wrong, hardly ever. You might not understand what it's telling you at the time and make a mistake that way. That would be the exception that I know of. So the idea is to actively participate in accomplishing what we think, and I mean that literally, what we think should be done.
Gentlemen?
Yeah.
Yeah, gentlemen, this is Denise. I just wanted to ask, we're a little better than halfway through the program. Would you like to take a refreshment break?
It's fine with me.
Well, yeah. You know, whatever Drake would like to do, and, you know, whatever the audience would like to do is fine.
Okay, we do have a few questions. I don't know if you would like to take any questions. We do have a few very good questions I see coming from our chat room and stuff, and from email as well, too. So I just wanted to let you know that. But I did want to know if you guys wanted to take maybe a 6 or 7 minute, like refreshment break.
Drake, do you want to take a break?
That's fine with me, Alfred. Is it okay with you?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, why don't we do that then? And I will let everybody know, too, we've had some people complaining they were having a little trouble with the Blog Talk Radio player again. You might try to refresh, reboot. I don't know. They've been seeming to have some problems this week, and it's not just us. Unfortunately, it's just about Blog Talk. It covers everyone. So I don't think that it's just us that's the issue. But at any rate, we are taking questions in our chat room at globalvoice2012.us and also via email at drakeanswers@gmail.com. And Alfred, did you have any way for anyone to contact or send questions your way, or?
Well, why don't they just send them, the ways that they would send them to Drake? Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. All right, well, gentlemen, we'll take about a 6.5 minute break then, and we'll see everyone back in just a minute. Okay, we are back, and I would like to welcome Alfred and Drake back, and don't let me interrupt. You go ahead and you just continue right where you left off, and if you are available for questions and you want to accept them, you just let me know.
Sure. Yeah.
I'd like to kick it up a notch.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. People are well aware of my previous shows that I've done, outing a combination of things, and one of those things is the freedom. Now, one thing people do not realize is that there is a thing called the Bill of Rights, and it states within it unalienable rights. That means that they cannot be attached in any format or form by any individual, that these are base rights. Those are given by the Creator. People refer to it as God. People pull them out of the Bible, and they will thump you over the head with the Bible if you ain't paying attention. And believe me, I've had that happen. So I'm going to go into two things. One, I do not teach the Bible. What I teach is the principles within it that work. You have to hunt and peck and search to find them, but there are base principles that go directly to the Creator. One of the things I've done, and I used to be a member of a fundamentalist Christian church, I was an elder in that church. I preached to people and all this other stuff, and I found some things. I found that people didn't want to hear the chapter and verse so much, but how the application applied to them personally. How can I make this better? What can I do with this? How does God answer a prayer? If anybody out there in the listening audience, or anybody who gets this out of the archives, pays attention to it, they're going to find two things. One, the presentation of the reality in which we are presently found. Number two, the manner in which you can absolutely regain control of that reality to the point that there are no limitations other than that you do no harm. Bingo. Real simple. Now, the thing about freedom is this. Under the unalienable rights, God, Allah, whatever name you want to stick on him, or it could be a female for all I know. I don't know. I'll leave that question to people who think they know what they're doing. The gist of it is this. God says, and I'll use that term because it's most familiar to me, that you have a choice. It's called freedom of choice. And it's stated pretty simply from Genesis 1:1 to the other end of the book, where it's stated you have the right to choose, to believe or not as you so choose. And a lot of people have tried a lot of things, you see them talking about this and talking about that, and you're into the negative timeline when you deal with the present situations worldwide, primarily. The reason you are is because this has been done to you for thousands of years. And I mean past several other civilizations as great or greater than the one in which you reside presently. Go look it up. It's online. Everybody mentions it, and there's evidence, etc., if you want to know. The thing about it is you've got that freedom of choice. And then, after that freedom of choice, you can either go ahead and drink beer and watch the game on TV, or, if you so choose, you can decide that you might want to experiment and see, yeah, right, he says this is real. Yeah, oh, he's got to be full of it or something. Okay, well, here's the crank up. I dare you. Whoops, this is what God says. Go ahead, ask of me something I cannot deliver. Show me that which I cannot do. He states this. You're going to go into the Old Testament to find some of it, but it's prolific. It's right to the point in your face. He does not quibble. He don't make jokes. He just says, okay, turkey. And if you'll remember, there was one guy actually argued with him. You mean to tell me that even if there was one righteous man, you'd destroy the whole place? He said, you better hurry up. I mean, you have to understand one thing. If it's real, and that if is big, because it's your decision is to try it out. It's your decision to experiment. But when you do, and it works, I want you to come back and listen to this whole program. I want you to also check that Sunday program that I did yesterday, because you're going to find in it all of the parameters, all of the exactness as to the operation of envisionment that removes our oppressive governments, that controls guns and mechanisms of war so that they don't operate. And there have been incidents where they wanted to fire the nukes. Nothing worked. All the lights were on, nobody home. People tried to fire guns. Click. No firing. Okay? Tanks won't start. You can't get, you name it. Okay? This is termed by David Wilcock as divine intervention. It's written all over his page. You can go there and see about it. That's Divine Cosmos. You can read about some of the same sorts of things, although I have not gotten into the subject until this point. And a quick delving into the sciences that Mr. Weber was kind enough to allow me on another show. Now, these sciences are not complicated. Do not try to intellectualize them. You have the basic choice of believe or not as you so choose. Act or not as you so choose. In taking action, that is knowledge that you're using. And knowledge in action is called
praxis. Now, Drake, may I indulge myself with another footnote here? And that is with a note, and I come here as a faculty member at EXO University, which is a continuing educational entity. It's a British Columbia nonprofit. Its website is at exouniversity.org, and we're a continuing education entity in exosciences, sci-sciences, and exopolitics. Now, part of the sci-sciences are parapsychology, and parapsychology was actually my entry point back in 1973 into extraterrestrial studies. I actually got in there through parapsychology. Part of parapsychology is a study of what we call the interlife or the afterlife, and through the scientific method, and that is laboratory protocols and replicable results, which is the definition or the official definition of knowledge. If you can, using standard laboratory protocols, achieve replicable results, then you've achieved knowledge. So parapsychology has the temerity to approach scientific knowledge about what we call God or Allah or source. I use the word source to be neutral and to keep it in a scientific spiritual realm as opposed to a religious realm. Religions, in my mind, are more organizations and more political and economic and social. And spirituality is more about relationship to dimensions or levels of vibrations and closeness to divinity. So we now have, in parapsychology, over 7,000 cases, replicable cases using hypnotic regression of soul memories of the interlife. And part of the subject matter of replicable memories of the interlife include the process of creation of human souls and the nature of source. And these are replicable. That is, you can set up a protocol and do a regression on any number of individuals, and you would get the same answer, or similar answers. And what the process of the creation of human souls is, to use kind of, and this is the words that come through, is sort of God or source is like a sea of light, and human souls come out as eggs of light, almost in an assembly line process. And so each of us humans here in this time-space hologram has at our core a holographic egg of light, which is a holographic component of that sea of light. And we know that the principles of holograms is that the whole is in each part of the whole. So the whole of source is in you and in everyone listening to this program and in me, and that's why in some languages we say namaste, which is I salute the God within you. And the answer as to what is God comes back as within what I call, in my next book, is called Dimensions, the Ecology of the Multiverse. And in it, we discovered through replicable science in many, many different areas that we live in a dimensional ecology of universes called the multiverse, which includes what I call an exopolitical dimension, which is the time-space hologram that we exist in, and the spiritual dimension, which is where source and the intelligent community of soul resides in the interlife along with spiritual beings. This is just a different languaging from what the great spiritual texts like the Bible and the Quran and the Torah and all of these have spoken about for ages, but the source of this is a scientific method. But what the nature of God is, or source, it's the composite of the sea of light plus all the little eggs of light, all the souls, plus all the spiritual beings, angels and all these things. Yes, there are angels that live in and reside in the spiritual dimensions or the interlife. And that is what is creating what I call the exopolitical dimensions, which is what is normally called in the spiritual text creation. So that, for example, as an individual soul, I'll be in the interlife, and I'll be reviewing all my past lives and future lives, and I'll say, they'll give me a menu, and I say, well, I'll choose that one. So I go in through an interdimensional portal, I come into this dimension, and this is in a normal life, and I sidle up to the womb of the mother, my future mother, for about 3 months prior to giving birth, and then I'm enmeshed into that fetus, and then I give birth, and I come in as Alfred, or as Drake, or as anybody else, inside this spacesuit that we call our bodies, or this 3D reality spacesuit, and I exist here where I'm developing my soul and have a life, and the purpose of this is soul development and experience for moral reasons, i.e., the whole purpose of the exopolitical dimension seems to be, it's sort of a hothouse for growing souls. This is what the purpose of the multiverse is. You know, we come here and we have pleasure and we don't have pleasure. it seems that Earth, this particular planet that we've been incarnated into at this time, and by the way, incarnation is non-local, so we can have, and the data shows, that we can be leading multiple lives, quote, at the same time. That is, you and I can have multiple lives going on at the same time because incarnation is non-local. But this particular incarnation, Terra planet, is sort of known as a planet of travail. They're pleasure planets, and they're kind of planets of travail and work, and we incarnated into a work planet. So that's kind of the background. But that is a brief summary on what the parapsychological data show about the nature of God, that it's a collective nature, so that you and I and all of those humans, all of us humans with our holographic fragments of Source within us and Source and all the spiritual beings are God. And we are continuously upholding and creating creation. So that's what the science shows. So it's not an it or a guy up in the sky with a beard or a woman or whatever. It's a collective. And that's what the science shows. I wanted to add that and get your comments on it, Drake.
Okay, well, that is a part of what I've been taught by people that supposedly are of the higher dimensions. The multiverse would be several levels. Within that, you have a beginning point. That would be Terra. This basically is a test planet, and what it does is it tests the capability of each individual to lead a decent or good life. Everybody can go figure that out according to the golden rule. The problems that have been created have been artificial. In short, we've been misled by just about everything. This was done by the alternative negative timeline and those who control it. The control of that negative timeline is the control of all of the inhabitants of the planet, not just one or two, not just black, white, orange, or whatever, but everybody. Now, that control is done for a specific reason, and that specific reason is to culminate in the Agenda 21 that everybody knows about, or should. If they don't, they'll look it up. The basis of what we know in terms of our orientation deals with what we term reality, the furniture, the house, etc. That reality is holographic in nature. However, if you watch the movie The Matrix, you'll find that that is, even in the program, the construct, as they call it there, even in that holographic representation where there's a couple of chairs, the idea of the individual known as Neo, the hero, he says, but this is real. And yes, it is. But it is only temporarily real. It's only there for two purposes. It's a portion of the test. It is also for people to have an orientation. It was found that people without orientation, just cut loose to drift as a spiritual entity, had problems relating to themselves and their development. Therefore, you have test existences. The other part of it is that you retain, until such time as ready, certain portions of your physicality. Now, exactly what the limitations on that is varies. There's a lot of scuttlebutt, there's a lot of this and ifs and what ifs, but I take exception to that and all of these objectionable things. The people that have, the entities that have told me this are these, quote, angels. The highest that I have ever been in contact with is level 6. A level 6 is 2 levels below the creator. Level 8, you start being introduced to the creator. Now, a lot of people see things as being separate, and yet combined. And this is a part of the whole of the truth. Yes, in combination to what you said, Alfred. Yes, as well, an identifiable, distinctly independent entity known as the Creator. That definition can only be found when you get there, from what I understand. That's how complex it is. Now, to take that into a reason point or reality point would be to look at the diversity that this planet holds. Then understand that there are 100 billion of the same type of planet within this particular galaxy. Then look how many galaxies there are, and the number grows exponentially each time you make a trip or flip or combination. This is called infinity. Now, my understanding of the universe is that it is still expanding, so that part of the theory is correct, but it's expanding in an orderly fashion. Everybody goes to this Big Bang and a few other explanations, and some people have the audacity to ask the question, who lit the fuse? So there has to be an intelligent, at least an intelligent source point or source, as David Wilcock and you refer to, and scientific experiment has proven. The source point is a part of, as well as under control of, a combination of both laws and the Creator itself. Now, I'm saying it because I don't know of a gender yet that could be attached to the Creator. Within all of this, you have a lot of religiosity, belief systems, man's idea of what it is and what should be done. I've seen what some men do, and believe me, I cannot personally trust those decisions. Then I fall over books. It can be the Quran, it can be the Bible, whatever, who say this is this, that's that. Anything outside of that is wrong, and you got a problem. Well, the problem as I see it is twofold. A person has the choice to make first. Secondly, they need to act on the choice made. Either become fully good or go ahead and become fully evil. It's a yay, nay, go or stay proposition. There's not an in-between. There's just simply a dividing line. Either it is the positive timeline or the negative, and this is the base decision. But it also leaves something out. And you got a problem with this because it is duality. Duality has to be made into a singularity before you get to the point where the Creator resides. And so you have multiple lifespans until you learn what you're supposed to learn from each individual experience of your lifetimes within, say, this level of 3. Say we're at level 3. The problem with this is that it don't matter what anybody likes, dislikes, or thinks. There are a combination of physical events coming, and those events are going to be extraordinary. I did not say destructive. I want that to be perfectly clear. These extraordinary events are the rise of Mother Earth, our planet, our solar system, from the third one dimension into the next, with the probability of passing into the one following that. So what you're stuck with is, okay, that means I need to get prepared, and what you do in order to do that is follow a combination of teachings where you understand the psychic or parapsychological sciences, where you are not limited to your physical body, that the things that you can do are beyond what you would call the senses realm. And the third part is to get yourself ready for a trip. It's a roller coaster ride. It ought to be really interesting. What do you think, Alfred?
Yeah, you know, well, here is my my kind of part of the conversation, because I've been having that same conversation for a while with a very interesting friend of mine, actually, who was a 50-year-old executive in the computer industry who is an ET contactee, who was back in the 90s, back in 1991 or 1994 or so. He was actually picked up by ETs and taken back to the 1800s in, I think it was right around the Smoky Mountains around there, because they wanted to see how he interacted with looking at life at that time, and looking at the families. And then starting at about 2010, they started interacting with him a great deal. And he contacted me right after I published an article saying that there is a war on for occupation of the planet, and that the Draco reptilians and Orion Greys have set a timeline of about between the year 2000 and 2050 for occupation of Earth, Mars, and their moons in this sector of the galaxy, which was a conclusion of a 1964 U.S. intelligence report. So he contacted me and said, Alfred, don't you know that the war's over and we've won, and I'm a contactee of the Andromeda Council. And he, rather than use his kind of earthly name and his name in the information technology computer world, he uses the name Tolec. So that Tolec and I did 10 interviews together or so on Exopolitics TV. And I really went in depth on it, where he would actually predict, he would get signals from the Andromeda Council, and they would say, there's going to be a mega earthquake in the, off of the Straits of Hormuz, to take out a reptilian base 1 week from today at this thing, and he would transmit that to me. I would publish it, and 1 week from today there was a mega earthquake exactly in the place where it happened, and then he would transmit and say, this is what happened. They took out the reptilian base for the last 7 years that had been transmitting negative emotions to the Middle East, and that had kept that whole region in turmoil. And the same thing with another base in the South China Sea, and the same thing with another base off of Australia, and the same thing with bases under Washington, D.C. and under Denver, whereby the U.S. government had been under gray and reptilian mind control and had been taken out. So I kind of followed that with him. And then we did several programs in which he said, look, what's happening now, and it's perfectly in line with the normal life cycle of the planet, is that planet Earth is scheduling to move through fourth dimension and then into 5D, and that by April 15th of by January 1st of 2015, this planet and everyone on it is going to be in 5D, and you're all going to be and I'm not kidding you, this is a quote, you're all going to be 7 feet tall, you're all going to have 10,000 year-long lifespans, you're all going to look like 35 years old, have a great life and a great sex life. So, and so I did that, and I really did rigorous articles, and after each article I would deconstruct it from a science point of view, and I would have a continual dialogue with him. I mean, we're friends, and I don't think that it's the Andromeda Council. I don't believe it's a true intergalactic council of the Milky Way and Andromeda. I think it's an interdimensional source, or even a New World Order source that has him under mind control. And what I said was this, is that Homo sapiens was actually created by a consortium of upper dimensional ethical extraterrestrial civilizations, the Pleiadians, the Alpha Centaurians, and others, as a 12-strand DNA light being in the third dimension, with kind of a guardian of the third dimension. And we're a really, really unusual species. But our place is to be a guardian and have dominion over the third dimension, and to be like a universal library. We are really unusual. And what happened is that we've had 3 interlopers about 280,000 years ago, and actually went there with Michael Tellinger and a group in November of 2011. People can see at Exopolitics TV my film, Occupy Adam's Calendar. We went and occupied the actual place, Adam's Calendar, where the Anunnaki ETs landed 280,000 years ago, and using their advanced teleportation, teleported out all of the gold to their waiting spaceship or back to their planet. And they're still doing it. Nothing has changed in 8,000 years, and they established bloodlines, and we're still under the exploitative Anunnaki Illuminati hierarchy. What you saw at the Olympics in terms of the UK monarch is actually the bloodline that comes down directly from the Anunnaki 280,000 years ago down to the UK monarch, who's a planetary queen because she owns 26% of the planet's ruling and really rules over everybody except she and the Pope, who is really the Roman emperor who morphed from the emperor to the Pope around 325 AD, who is sort of the reptilian and Orion Gray overseer for the planet. So that's what's happening there. And the Anunnakis came in 280,000 years ago and intervened, and using sound technology devolved our 12-strand DNA down to 2-strand. But however, now through this awakening, early indigos like you, Drake, and myself, and I, I'm just making this assumption. We're moving back to 4-strand, 6-strand. The crystal kids are coming in at 6-strand. So we are now reactivating our DNA, reacquiring our status as 6 to 12-strand DNA with sovereignty over the 3rd dimension, and that's what ascension means. It's inner ascension to re-becoming the multidimensional beings that we are, based on and with sovereignty over 3D. And with the 6 to 12-strand DNA, we reach up into 5D, we reach up into 9D, we reach up into the galactic center and down. So that's my kind of reflection on how I view the issue of ascension. It really means inner, and it really means reactivation from 2-strand DNA back up to our 12-strand and full sovereignty. Back to you.
That's close in a lot of ways to what I've been told recently. With my contact, I have been going through a school, and the broad-based timeline and descriptions that you just offered are being defined. One of the misconceptions that a lot of people have had over a long period of time is that we go and everything else doesn't into a, quote, higher dimensional format. The basis of this, as you well know, is the vibratory basis. When those things increase into the harmonic of the next dimension, the whole of the existence actually moves from 3 to 4. This does not happen lightly. There are a lot of things that have to take place relative to that, a portion of it being the greatest awakening possible for all of the beings of the planet, specifically us. Our capabilities do make us a crown of creation, in that we are on what is called a keystone planet. In that effect, what you derive is that the keystone effect, in other words, what a keystone is, and it's key to holding a whole load of stones in place, makes us key to the diminishing of the, quote, dark side, negative timeline. This is why the principle of envisionment to the average person is something that had to be outed, it had to be taught, and it has to have a scientific record, which several people have proven. Nobody so far to date can actually say it works like this. What they can say is that when I do X, I affect X, Y, and Z. The parameters or the limits of that are only in the vision, within the vision itself. Now, my understanding is of the ideology to include several different sciences where we are coming up on the astral alignment of planets, sun, etc. In that light, you become, or we become, as a complete system, similar to what would be called a magic wand. Now, what that means is most of these, quote, wands, and you see these on Harry Potter all the time, they got lumps in them and all this stuff, and they shoot lightning bolts and have a good time with it. However, there is a lot of truth in that when you have a planetary alignment, each of the physical entities begin to connect into a whole through a combination of the alignment itself and both magnetic, gravitational fields, etc. The interesting part about it is, and there's a man that has promulgated the theorem of a hollow or spherical bell effect, where a planet can be ringed or dinged. And that is primarily what happens in terms of a true dimensional shift on a physical level. Only the difference is that the whole system, because of its alignment, shares in this shift. And that shift is in the basis of the frequencies whereby we all exist. Mother Earth goes, so goes everything and everybody on it. Now, I don't know if the dog is going to start talking to us or what these advancements mean entirely. I get the feeling, and I'm hoping that's a joke, because there's a lot of dogs and cats probably would have complaints with their people that have got them. Whether or not you'll be able to actually have a conversation with the petunia that you got on the porch is also a question. There are a lot of things in terms of detail that has not been given to me yet. But the absolute is that we are going. Now, there have been a combination of, as you said in 2010, a war. And that was a combination of interdimensional and psychic and spiritual and physical war. There was a great battle, and these things could be seen if people would report them. A lot of people can't report them, because as soon as you say something about that to any official, they're going to come get you and your evidence, pretty simply. The controllers or the officials do not want this knowledge out. The reason they don't is because it gives people freedom, the freedom to make the decision what they want in terms of a future. Do you think the planet ought to be destroyed and everybody gets crispy crittered, or do you think it might be kind of neat to have your kids run around in the grass in the front yard and everything be normal? This is the choice that you have to make, and it's simple. The ideology is that as you exercise this, then other people are going to see it and pick up on it, that the word will spread, and that more people will be prepared for things outside of what we consider the norm in our physical characteristics, our being, our interaction with the house, the car, Mother Earth, whatever. And so the ideology that has been expressed to me in this so-called school or teaching that I have received is that the sciences involved are advanced. Yes, they've been here and are a part of creation. Therefore, instead of going against the flow, my recommendation is to follow it, particularly in the sense of the simplistic things that each individual can do, which is the envisionment of a better condition all over. This enhances the positive timeline, negates the negative timeline, and from what I understand, we ought to have a pretty nice picnic. And that's basically,
right.
I mean, you know, and not, I want you to understand, I'm not taking issue with what you've stated, but a lot of those things have not been given to me as full factual as of yet. We could turn into 10-foot tall, 10,000-year beings. I don't know because I haven't been told, but I can ask and I will find out. And I will be sure to let you know.
Yeah, now, what I found really enlightening about what you just said was that I felt it was an integration between the positions that I was taking and the positions that Tolec has been transmitting on behalf of the source he calls the Andromeda Council. Because you stated the essential position, and that is that it is the Earth which is ascending and birthing up to the fourth and fifth dimensions. And we are part of the Earth, so we ascend with it as an organic whole. And that at the same time, everything that I said is occurring. That in conjunction with that, all of our DNA systems are reactivating, because right now we're only using 3 to 7% of our DNA, and the rest of it has been classified as, quote, junk, but it's now getting reactivated. And so that is occurring as the whole Earth system is transitioning through dimensions. Now, as you just stated, what Tolec was downloading, he said, oh, and at the end of the process, you're going to end up in 5D, and death shall be no more. And death shall have no dominion, and you're going to have 10,000-year lifespans, and you're going to be 7 feet tall, and you're all going to be look around 35 years old, and you're going to have a kind of an MTV lifestyle or something. I don't know, so that was the part that got me off. I said, wait a minute, we were created to have sovereignty. Now, if all of this is happening at once, which I think that your formulation really explained it dynamically, then I can see now the integration between what I was saying and between what Tolec was saying on behalf of the Andromeda Council, whatever that source is. Now, we know from exopolitics that, and this is a regularity, that when, and I'm going to be brief because I see that we have only 5 minutes remaining, is that when extraterrestrial civilizations contact ET contactees, they very often give them disinformation to keep them alive. And so with that, I'll stop.
Alfred, I would like you and Drake, first you, tell our audience about the program upcoming on the 21st, where you and Drake will continue on your program. And then we'll have Drake make a closing remark.
Sure. What we're going to do, and this will be, I think we'll have to move it back to that Monday, just because of some just because of some scheduling, and that is that on Monday, August 20th, Exopolitics TV has invited Drake to join me for a special interview on the nature of the matrix. And it'll be pre-recorded on that day, and then it'll be released that week. So this is a very, very exciting program. We're looking forward to it. As you know, Keanu Reeves was in The Matrix, and 20th Century Fox flew up here to Vancouver and filmed me for a mini documentary that was supposed to be part of the DVD release of The Day the Earth Stood Still with Keanu Reeves. Somehow, 20th Century Fox left my mini documentary off of the DVDs. Somebody got to him, but at least there's that synchronicity there. So I just want to let people know about that, and we'll be in touch with you, Drake and all, just on the details of that.
Okay. And Drake, did you have closing remarks?
Well, yeah, kind of. I'm looking forward to that show or recording. I would definitely like to have another 4 or 5 hours to continue the conversation.
Absolutely. We, you know, if you and Alfred have time, we could continue this on another day this week, or, you know.
I would be very, very happy and honored to come back, not necessarily this week, because I have a conference speaking date and I have other programs, but in the future, I would be very, very happy and honored to come back. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. We have 60 seconds.
Well, I usually have a thing on our freedom programs of get her done. Well, I got a little message along that line, and that is for people to do 2 things. Number 1, learn. Acquire the knowledge necessary for you to become what you need to be so that you'll be a little better prepared for what's coming. Now, I can verify, and there are scientific means to do this, of each and every last thing I've stated. As I have said before, I am in direct contact, and a lot of people don't understand that, but I'm going to tell you that this is an integral part of the ideology of true freedom. There will be no longer controls, and the boundaries and limitations will be almost non-existent. And so each person can look forward to that blue sky, butterflies, and neat little picnic in the meadow.
Okay. 10 seconds. I would like to tell everyone we will be posting this in the archives, and we will let you know when we have a continuation of it. And thank you, everyone. Time sure flew by. It was very interesting. I would like to announce that we are going to try to get a hold of Alfred. We're going to try and get a hold of Alfred and see if we can't get him back and do a little bit of overtime. It appears that Blog Talk is going to allow me to go into some overtime. For those of our people who are still hanging in here, please do so, and I'm going to have one of my associates here help me to see if we can get a hold of Alfred to call back in. Let's see.
Okay.
Drake, you're still with us, right?
Yes, I am.
Okay. All right. The only thing is I don't know Alfred's number, but I think Grammy J has it, so we're gonna have her call. In the meantime, Drake, I'm having them try to call him right now, and I have several questions that are quite interesting. I might go ahead and give you one while I pursue trying to get Alfred back on the phone.
Okay.
And let's see what we have here. Okay. Okay. Is it true that there are an infinite number of timelines? And is it correct to say that our personal timelines are forever in flux, and are affected by all factors, and we have already slid onto a new timeline, and we have continually since we were incarnated?
Not exactly. You do not have there are not an infinite number of timelines, because the experiences are finite. That's the differential. You have to understand that in this particular adaptation, the alternate timelines, other than the true positive or negative that would be picked up, are lesser and lesser of a combination of both power and quality. And that means that they diminish themselves into the infinity of non-existence. So therefore, you have a finite number of timelines. In other words, in a setting where you have a probability, and that is where you would knock over dominoes as an example. There's only so many dominoes. And this is the same sort of an ideology in terms of understanding. The timelines of an individual is a part of either the positive or negative timeline according to their conduction of themselves. Secondarily, and when you get into this part, you end up with a decision process and a reality process. Both of these are to come to bear. In other words, the sooner that a person accepts the ideology of a positive timeline and starts acting in it, then they start receiving better and more positive results. So the other part of it is that we have a destination that we are going to. Whether anybody really likes it or not is not my problem. Whether you understand it or not is only partially given in the knowledge that you're going to receive in terms of the base sciences from me. The rest of it goes to the fact that the Earth is going to ascend. We're going with it. The better prepared you are, the better off you're going to be. You won't have to go to school to learn how to walk. You already know how to do that. You won't have to be schooled in limitation because you already understand that the limitation primarily was from this third dimensional existence. Remember, that's a testing ground. So as we go to the second one above where we're at now, which is fourth, the 4D is going to be just as much of a leap of difference as was had between the caveman and where we're at today. Now, think about caveman and we're here today, that much of a leap in number 4, and everybody can kind of think Star Trek or a lot of fun and games in that direction. Now the fun begins, and this is going to roast your mind. We're going to 5. We're not stopping and staying in 4. So therefore, you're going to do a double caveman to now. And that's going to be extraordinarily interesting. I got billions and millions of questions of my own just on that. Okay?
Okay, Drake, we're still trying to get Alfred back, but I'll give you another question while we're waiting. Okay. Drake has said that we can't look into the past to investigate such things as who was involved in Lincoln's assassination. Is that because the future is fixed and anything we might learn now could change the future?
Not exactly, no. The problem is more...
I think they're applying that movie, Back to the Future, huh?
Well, in some ways, yes. And that movie does have some things in there that that everyone needs to understand. One of those is that you do not go back into time in any way, shape, or form and fool around with it, period, to include just simply extracting information. And the reason for that is that anything that is done in the past has a direct effect on what the future is, to include even our existence right here today. Now, they got a movie called Time Cop, and that is a good representation. It states that these two entities, if they're in the same time with each other and are the same being, shall not come into contact. And they show what happens when that takes place. This is not too far from being correct. Now, the ideology of shooting somebody down a rocket sled at a wall is not the manner in which you devoid time of its presence. You actually pass around time. You do not break it. You do not explode through it, etc. Now, a lot of people have misconceptions, and some of those deal directly with scientific knowledge that I do hold. Some of it, if I don't know, I will tell you, because I'm not going to put false information out. Okay? I guess we lost Denise. Or her mute
No,
button.
you didn't lose me. I'm on mute we're still trying to track down and get a message to Alfred to call back in. Okay, so I'm bouncing between Skype and the board here and everything else. Okay, so all righty, let's see. Well, we'll continue with questions, Drake, and while we're still trying to get a hold of Alfred, I'll give you the questions that are for you.
Okay.
Drake, how does chronovision work? Is it based on new physical principles that we will be able to learn about?
Yes. There's a whole load of things that people are going to come across that you've not come across before. And yes, you will be schooled in certain portions of that so that you don't screw things up, so to speak. It's kind of like making sure that a baby don't fall over when it's learning to walk, similar sorts of things. That does not mean you're going to have to go learn to walk again. But it does mean that you're going to have to learn what you should or should not do, your influence, and your responsibility with it. So, yes, and there's a whole lot of sciences boogieing out there. Just they are advancing just as fast as we are chasing them. The thing is that we will be brought up to speed, so to speak, with the dimension in which we are residing. So you're going to go from being earthbound to being free. You're going to go from being confined in terms of the truth of belief into no boundaries. Limitations are very, very, very exceptionally simple. Do no harm. You don't go out there and kick an alligator. If you're intelligent at all, it might bite you. Well, that same kick can also cause problems in terms of interfering with things you shouldn't fool with. So in that light, you don't want to fall over the coffee table right at first. And these are the kinds of information that you'll get so that you don't have problems with it. Okay?
Okay. All right. I think Alfred may be still trying to call in, and I'm not sure that the board, since we're in overtime, is allowing him to call back in through. So
did you get a number on the board from when he was on?
There was a number. Well, he was calling through, but it wasn't showing an actual number. So yeah. But I think when we go into recording time, it may be telling him that the show is over. I'm afraid. But we'll keep. We'll wait a few more minutes. There's Steady sending him messages, so we'll see. We have a couple more questions for you, Drake. Okay, let's see. I'm just sorting them out here between you and Alfred's questions. Okay. Let's see. Drake, if you said you were taught all of this was this since childhood that you've been taught this? And if so, where did you learn it?
I've been taught a lot of things since childhood. I used to climb up on the roof in the summertime and lay there and look at the stars and wonder. And one day, a being, and I called it Stardust because it looked like a piece of sky in sort of a humanoid shape with stars in it. It was defined by an outline, so to speak. And so, what I'm saying is that, I was taught a great many things. Some of those things were on the level of consciousness. Some were not. And I'm not sure exactly how that worked. I was a kid at the time anyway. But you're talking the use of extraordinarily advanced sciences by a person who knew them very well, because I did have a lot of questions. I'd read a bunch of science fiction. So, hey, I really need to, get this going, and I, need to make sure that I'm correct about this. Okay, so at different intervals over a period of years, I was interviewed, talked to, schooled, not only just with ET, as I will call it, Stardust, whatever you want to call that, but also by the military. So there's a variety of things that go into this. Recently, in the near past, I have made contact directly with people who are in contact with ETs. They do not use channeling. They use straight telepathy. I want to make that absolutely clear. So now you've got a situation that's different than any that have been before, because at this point you have a clarity. Now, in channeling, you actually allow the other being to inhabit your physical form. This brings with it controls. It brings with it prejudices. It brings with it the life that it has led. And it may or may not be a beneficial type of communication. Most people do not like it because it is too invasive. It makes you feel dirty, and it's hard to wash you inside. So it's basically frowned upon by most who are telepaths. Now, there is a problem of communication between some telepaths at our dimension and telepaths at fourth or fifth dimension. That does happen, but on the whole, those things can be worked out. It's not a problem, and the direct contact can be through someone who is in direct contact and simply states what that entity said, and then we have a conversation that way. That is one of the ways that this is done. So, pick one.
Yeah, okay. Okay, let me give you one more question, Drake. I do have another caller on the board, and it's a possible. I'm not sure if it might be Alfred or not. Okay. Let's see. Find one for Drake here. All right. Okay, the gray aliens put us in the matrix. So we are conscious holograms in a world created by sound. What we see is not real, but a hologram, and we are about to get out with a new beginning. What happens after this or after that?
Well, basically, usually a hologram is a contained space, and I'll give you the example of being in a movie theater and having the movie theater walk down the block of, maybe more than a block, and you're in it, and you're just sitting there watching the movie, and you don't really notice anything different until you go outside, and you wonder where you parked the car. I mean, that is the sort of thing that you can look at in terms of being caught unaware, of not being prepared. See, if you're prepared, and this is part of it that a lot of people miss, you will be notified. It's coming. You need to get ready. Fasten your seatbelt or whatever kind of fun and games they feel is appropriate at that time for the individual. Each individual that needs to be contacted will be. Now, a lot of people see death and destruction, and that's the negative timeline. The positive timeline is an ascension. And pretty much, in terms of the physics or sciences that I explained, you simply are going to take a ride with Mother Earth into a new dimension, a new existence. There are new things within that. Now, that does not mean that your physicality or your house, your car, and all that's going to go poof and disappear, or you're going to turn into some kind of blob of energy. What it means is that you are going to change the vibrational frequency at which you exist. And that existence change is the dimensional difference between 3 and 4. We're not stopping at 4, as I said. We're going to 5. So you're going to get a couple of them in quick concession. And it depends on how well the population of the planet takes the first shift as to how soon we go into the 5th. But you also have a combination of stellar timing, and that stellar timing predicts and specifically takes certain dates at certain times for certain reasons, and it happens anyway. So my objective personally is to be as ready as I can for both of these. The first one we're looking at. The second one, ooh-wee. And in that process, following what I specifically stated here on the show. Next.
Okay. It's my understanding, Drake, that once the program has ended and we are in recording mode, that if Alfred were to try to call in, it will tell him call it back when there's a program on. We do, however, have a conference line that we're trying to, from somebody who is sitting on the board, that could patch him in if he calls that conference line number. So we're still trying to get to him. I have just a couple more questions, and we have, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 callers that had questions, Drake. I don't know if you want to go ahead and continue answering questions or...
sure, why not?
Okay. All right. Let's see. Let's see. Well, this would be a continuation of kind of that last question. If we are holograms, Drake, is that the reason we are considered or said to be infinite?
You got to remember something, okay? You are only partially a hologram, and that is a reality. And the other part of spirituality is the other portion of that holographic ideology. In other words, you are who you are. You look the way you do because you believe so. Pretty simple. When this changes, the changes are going to be in the base frequency of operation. It's not going to change us particularly one way or the other as much as has been alluded to necessarily. So
okay.
I have to look at it that way.
Okay. Next question is, when we dream and we see ourselves doing seemingly impossible things like flying and being in magical places, etc., did we break through the matrix while we were sleeping?
That's a good possibility. If a person is a forward-thinking type of person, and you'll have to look up forward-thinking, and I mean it strictly in the psychic sense of being able to look forward or towards a possibility of future, you can latch onto timelines that directly affect you. And if you thought it'd be neat to be able to act like Superman, just jump up in the air and fly away, from what I understand, that is not impossible. I do not know how easy that'll be to do, and I rather imagine some people are going to get some bumps and bruises when they try to take off. I have a tendency to bump my whatever's on the ground when I try to walk too fast, so I can imagine what it'd be like if I decided to jump out a window. So I'll leave that with you right where that sits. Next
okay.
one.
Okay. Are we in a dream state in this life now?
No. You're in what you're doing is that your spirit is dealing with the reality of the holograph in an extended state. That's what the Matrix in the movie The Matrix is expressing. Your body's in one place, your mind in another, your mind spirit in another. This difference is the difference between the two. Now, ours is very much like that, and yet a little bit different, because this is real, and that was something on camera. Now, the other part of it is that the script for the movie itself was adulterated a bit by the people that stole it from a person I admire highly, and they adjusted it. So you do not have the whole truth in it, but you do have a lot of it, and it's very well represented. So in looking at the holographic there, that guy was in a holograph, okay? We are experiencing a holograph, which is a bit different. In other words, you have a combination of both spirit and physicality within this third dimension, as it's called. So that's what you have to look at in terms of a reality. If you are a part of the holographic, in that you are physically and spiritually there, you then have the capability of altering the hologram. Whereas Neo was able to take control of it after he discovered it, you now have the ability to not only discover it, but actually change anything you wish within it. Okay?
Okay. I'm supposed to ask you, Drake, what beliefs will send us towards a timeline 1 or a positive timeline?
Well, what do you like that's good? Chocolate ice cream? I mean, pick something. Would you like to have a better situation in your life, not quite as strenuous? in whatever way. It could be mentally, it could be physically. What would you like to see as a future? And this is something
positive affirmation.
Yeah, basically. And what you do is you figure those out. You make these decisions. And it's a grouping of them. It's a long string. And as you make these decisions, then you create within yourself more positivity. As you create more positivity within yourself, you can then start graduating yourself into control of the matrix through the envisionment parameter. And it's just that simple.
Okay. Next one, Drake, is, let's see. Is it true that you have the karma of 2 families to work through when you're adopted?
Yes. And no. Most people, if they're, depending on the age at which you're adopted, throw their loyalty, their love, their being into the family that they are given or end up with. That does not necessarily mean you do not have attachment with the other. And that attachment can be equal to, or even in some cases stronger than, the attachment to the people that have raised you or took you in, or however that worked. So it's a combinational answer of both yes in some cases, no in others, and it depends on the individual and the individual situation.
Okay, we have just a couple more questions, Drake. And then we had 4 or 5 calls. Let's see. All right, this is from Danny. And this, let's see. Ask Drake if he is still looking for an outer solution to the problems of the world, or are they being repaired behind the scenes as we speak?
It's a combination. And it's a combination that I happen to be a part of, which I intentionally put myself in a position to be. My perception of it is that we can use all the help we can get. There's a whole lot of people out there that ain't quite sure what to do with whatever comes next, and I don't blame them. This is confusion, and confusion is the negative timeline. The unemployment problem, the problem with foreclosure, the problem with finance, all of that has been perpetrated against us or used in an attempt to control us is a negativity. There are very few controls on the positive timeline simply because you have 2 things to do. Believe or not, as you so choose, which, you want to believe in this or you want to learn about it so you can believe in it or whatever, or I don't think so, whichever you want to choose on that. And this is after you're already in this other place, okay? Then you have the sciences you got to learn in order to do whatever it is you're going to do. So, this is not simplistic. This is extremely convoluted. It's not something that's easy to formulate in a person who is not used to the ideas. The ideas are simple. Because you're an integral part of the hologram, you already have control. All you have to do is exercise it. Neo had to discover it. You've been given it, and that's a big difference. It'll give you an advantage. You don't have to go through all that movie did in order to find out what you need to know. You've got it now. Okay, Drake, we had, let me give you another question. We had another caller just call in, and it's a possibility, so let's see. Let me give you one more question while we're doing that. Okay, the advanced beings in our dreams can change their form into your friends or family members. You are put into different dream scenarios, so for the purpose of observation, would it be data mining? Not really, not necessarily. It depends on what entity it is that causes this to come about. It could be a learning experience for you. The dream state is similar to astral projection in a lot of ways, remote viewing in others, the capability to latch onto and experience timelines that are not yet or could be. So there's a lot that goes into it, and it would vary according to the individual situation and the individual involved. Okay?
Okay. All right, Drake. Sorry about that. I was on hold. Okay. will people like humans just disappear altogether, or will we just look different?
I don't know that we're going to even look that much different. I've not been told that we're going to be 7 foot tall, though that's a possibility. In which case we're going to have to buy a bunch of doors because my door is not tall enough for not bump my head.
Mine aren't either, Drake.
Yeah, exactly. So you have to look at things and, would God want you to bump your head? And I don't think you would, so I probably won't go over about 6'6", maybe. And these things have not been expressed because you have what's called variations in the culmination or finishing or details of a timeline. Right now we're dealing with a generality. As it gets more specific, which it will for everybody, then you will be able to pick, choose, adjust, or whatever comes up in relation to what's going on.
Okay. All right, we had one more question, and this was addressed to Alfred, but I'm sure you can help to answer it. Drake, what form of assistance will we see from ET, and will it be eye-opening to wake up the planet?
Yes, and I mean emphatically yes. I've been told things about future events that are coming that are going to be extraordinary. This is one of the reasons people need to raise their awareness in terms of something beyond themselves. The ideology of spirit is beyond yourself. The ideology of God is something beyond yourself, or the creator, whatever. ETs are something that are sort of beyond. You don't have one to shake hands with, and you're going, well, why don't you come down here and land? Well, they want to make sure this is done right. That's part of it. And certain things have to be met in terms of condition before they will do that. And these conditions are being worked on as we speak. Okay. At least I hope it is.
Okay. All right, Drake, that was all of the questions from the chat and the email. And let's see. We have a couple, 3 callers, or 4 or 5 callers, actually. Would you like to go ahead and take them?
Sure.
Okay. Aaron in Nevada, you're on with Drake.
Hey, did HAARP cause the Iran earthquake? And any updates on the liens of the lawsuit?
First of all, the earthquakes were partially caused in a HAARP fashion through what's called an earthquake machine. That's a similar type of machine, whether people like that or not. HAARP can be used to interfere with seismic dynamics and actually augment what an earthquake machine would do. Now, the other part of it is that Mother Earth resists that, so sometimes they're not too accurate. They miss. The liens and whatnot are in process as we speak. I talked to Neil yesterday and today, and he assures me that we may have some news from him that we can post on the website soon. So those things I hope are, closer than further. Okay?
Thank you.
Aaron, thank you for your patience and holding all that time. I appreciate it.
Okay, I went out for a run.
Okay, all right, Aaron. Thank you for calling in.
My pleasure.
Okay, now we have Catherine. Catherine from Catherine from Minnesota. Let's see, Catherine, you are live.
Thank you. Hi, Drake. I'm a fan. I was just wondering, how can you call all this stuff you've been talking about black ops? Because it's been out for a number of years, decades, if not centuries. I mean, I've read about this stuff from stuff that Madame Blavatsky wrote, Edgar Casey, Dale Carnegie, Napoleon Hill, Earl Nightingale. The Chronovision was written about in Ancient Masters of the Far East. Neville Goddard wrote a series of books in the 20s and 30s. And then there's Ramses School of Enlightenment in Yale, Washington.
Yeah. I can call them black ops because I didn't specifically name the operations. You have a combination of controllers, which directly influence certain people. You have people that are shadows that follow people around to make sure they do what they're supposed to do according to the controllers. You have a combination of psychic attacks. The advent of the accidents is sometimes done that way. And the intuitive communication system of the military that has only recently come to light in the last couple of years is still an ongoing project. These, to find these, you have to have an extraordinary security clearance. You're going to be well above Q. You're going to be almost unlimited in terms of your security clearance in order to garner the information on a personal basis. Now, part of this is that people probably won't like is that you're not going to be able to get any information in hard form out of the place, period. There have been measures taken in terms of security that you will not get past unless you have the capability of interdimensional functioning. That is the only way I know that you might be able to get past their systems. Now, the problem is that the systems have been in place approximately 311,000 years. The problem is that these people are well practiced and extraordinarily well schooled and extremely expert in the processes being used against us. So you have to understand that this is, to a large extent, an overall process. And the problem is that it has to be addressed on an overall basis. So you have varying components, one of those being financial. Neil Keenan is addressing that. You have a combination of legalities, and some of Keenan's staff and friends are helping him with that. Then you have a combination of our ascension and the outing or lack of secrecy that is going to become prevalent in the very near future. But you have a bunch of tactical logistics and other things in between. So looking these things up, you'll find you'll be led to NSA. That's the first place you'll end up. DOD is another place you'll end up. When you get online and try to research these things, you'll find a firewall. They do not want you to have any kind of official recognized program that deals with this stuff. And people will go poof and disappear if they say anything, or they allow you in. If you're not an expert hacker, my suggestion is that you stay out of it. And I have dealt with these people. They burned up a couple of my computers over this. So from firsthand, a combination of firsthand knowledge, your experience in terms of what you related to with the history, I mean, that's all correct. Yes, everybody should know about it, but what you have is a bunch of people out there who only believe in our physicality. They cannot extend themselves past that. This is why I address in pretty much kindergarten language some of the extraordinary sciences that I'm aware of that can be used by any individual. And that way the process can be followed easily. It's not something that sounds extraordinary foreign, so people might have a tendency to or be more inclined to experiment with it. Once they find out it's real, then you got a whole bunch of people that are going to have extraordinary results. And as I said, that spreads. You see your neighbor being able to do stuff that you know they can't do, you're going to go ask them about it eventually. They might come over the backyard fence, you talking to somebody, or, you know, you see them at a social place or run into them at the grocery or whatever. Eventually, you're going to ask them about it. This is just the way it is. My experiences have been with the general population, most people don't get into the subject because they don't believe it. And that's one of the big problems. That's one of the holdbacks of humanity. This is the reason we've not progressed correctly as we should have. So in taking all those things into light, yes, you're right, and so am I, and it's a two-way kind of street. You got things that, and they won't believe it anyway. Yeah, right, there's flying saucer landed in my backyard, little green man got out. Well, what's he been drinking? And that's the idea of attitude and discredit. And that's basically where this is at. People don't, you know, until ET lands in my yard, I ain't believing it. Well, these things are going to be addressed. They're going to be addressed publicly, and it's not too far off. So get ready to have some fun.
Okay, well, I've already had my fun. I was a member of Ramsey School from 1980 to 1990. I woke up when I was 33 due to a book that I read by Neville Goddard, and I've been awake ever since. So this is why it's just I know there are people out there that just absolutely refuse to wake up because they absolutely refuse to believe any of this. And
they got a surprise coming.
Yeah, they got a big surprise. They have a big surprise coming.
They do. They do. And I just hope it's not too shocking, because this is easy stuff. It's very simple, and it's simple to do. All you have to do is really.
The thing is that it is the impossibility of them to recognize it as being real. They now that ain't happening. You can't do that in my backyard. And when their backyard takes them for a ride, it's going to be interesting. This is the reason we're trying to do these programs to wake as many up as possible, because it would be nice if they were aware at least, that there's a possibility that there's going to be some fun and games coming. I wish it was easier than it is, but I don't mind, continuing to have these shows and have a lot of fun with it.
I understand. I've been trying to wake people up for years, and when they start looking at me like I have two heads or something like that, I just turn around and walk away.
Hang in there, baby. Hang in there. It's okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Catherine. Thank you so much for your call, honey.
Thank you, Deatra. Thank you, Drake. Have a good day.
Well,
bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
She just called you Deatra.
I know, darn it. Oh, well.
It's okay, Denise. It was a faux-pas slip.
That's okay. All right. I just wanted everyone to know, too, I just heard from Alfred. He wanted to thank us. He is sitting down to eat his dinner.
Yes.
So he will not be rejoining us, but he wanted to say that please defer any questions for Alfred. You can continue to send those to us at onefreepeople@gmail.com. And if those of you with these couple calls that we have coming up, if you have questions for Alfred, we will be happy to pass them along to him, and he will have those answers prepared when Drake and him meet up again next week. So, okay, with that, and I will ask you to, if we answer your call, if you will please press the number 1 if we have answered your question, so that you will be removed from the queue. Okay, now we have Rob from Melbourne, Florida, and Rob has been a frequent caller. Welcome back, Rob.
Hey, thank you very much. I tell you what, I cannot believe we're talking about this subject. It's amazing. I had a friend, he's in Vietnam, and he was part of SOG, and he got shot, and he was telling me a story years ago where he actually died on the table at triage, and he said he went to the light, and the family was waiting on him. He said he tried to go over there. He said it was the most beautiful feeling he ever had. He tried to go in the light, and he kept saying his dad come out of, like, the crowd, and he said his dad was young and handsome, and said, no, you got to go back. You're not complete over there. And I heard that story. And then my father passed away about 13 years ago. And then about 3 in the morning, I was out with some friends. They were consoling the family. And we come home, and I flipped the light on, and his rocking chair was rocking. I flipped the light back off and went right to my room. What can you say about something like that? Is that real? How's that going to work with Ascension? Are we going to be able to get to see the loved ones from the past and things like that?
Yep. And I could leave it at a hillbilly redneck answer like that, but a person in a higher dimension can come back. This is where the ghosties and whatnot come from. In terms of a real recognizable form, an individual that is tied very strongly to another individual of a different realm. You can have interactions when you go to this higher dimension, and we are supposed to be able to see those who are still within the dimension which we end up in. So, yes and yes. These things are real. Can't help it if, there's no scientific method of, quote, proving it. Some people do get videos, etc. You got these ghost chasers that think they're cool right up until the entity takes exception with their playing games with them. So, yeah, I mean, you know, look forward to past loved ones and being in good health and having a heck of a good time. And what's neat, one thing that's neat is it's really like a kind of a family reunion, or you know, that picnic you always wanted to have and you didn't get there. The fishing, you know, going fishing with Grandpa kind of thing. You know, wow, now we can go fishing. And I understand that everything that we've got here, pretty much, excepting the nasty things, are waiting for us on the other side of this, whatever it is in terms of ascension. So, you know, like I said, I don't think they want us running around replacing all the doors in the house. So I'm not going to be 7'6". I don't think. At least I hope not. I'm going to be busting my head a lot. Commonsensical type of take that I have on it. Does that answer the question?
Oh, you betcha, Drake. I tell you what, it's amazing, man. You're amazing. I appreciate the help. I tell you, my mom, I'm going to give her a holler, because we kind of knew, because when we saw that chair rocking by itself, you know, we're like, okay, welcome to a new reality. Well, let me get off here. There's other folks that are going.
Thank you.
Rob, bless you, and thank you for calling, as always.
Thank you
appreciate
for calling.
Okay, bye, Rob. Okay. We have Nathan from Texas. Nathan, you're live. Well, we had Nathan from Texas. Nathan, are you there? He may be on hold, or he may have dropped. Okay, let's try. Ray from. Nathan, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I pulled the Drake right there. I had my phone on mute.
had yourself on mute, huh? Okay.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, you know, I just want to give a shout out to my cousin, Second Lieutenant Jimmy Craver from McKinney, Texas. He died in Iraq in 2006. And anyway, you know, I just wanted to say that. What was I trying to say?
You're breaking up a little bit, Nathan.
Yeah. So okay, I had a question. A few people.
You're breaking
Hello?
up, honey. You're breaking up, honey.
Okay, hold on. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit better.
Okay, I'm going to go outside real quick. All right, there's a few people on the Global Voice 2012 who I was talking to earlier on Facebook, and they were talking about communism and everything, and I understand the concept of communism, but I just wanted to make sure because, you know, I mean, I'm not trying to be in a communist group or anything. They were talking about, oh, it would be so much better in America if we had communism and all this stuff. So I just want to see what Drake thought about communism, and I thought that the direction that we're moving with this is more towards a free, you know, constitutional republic type of government, if anything, to where people will be able to own their own land and to be able to, work and make their own living, and not some kind of communist, central government type. You know what I'm saying? So if I could just get Drake's, input on communism.
Absolutely.
And what he thinks. Yeah.
Drake will clarify that.
All right. The answer is absolutely not. You're not going to have communism. You are going to have a social order where you will be involved in productivity. The things that we have to spend our productivity on now will not be things that we will have to spend them on in the future, to the extent that we do now. They would like for you to use your combination of talents and skills, your life experiences, and the direction that you feel in your personality you would like to go as a combination and see exactly where you might fit. Now, I'm not saying somebody's going to insert you. What I'm saying is that there are tests that we have today, and most of your technical colleges or placement universities have these, and they take into account all of the things that I just mentioned: your psychological makeup, your talents, the idea of life experience, And in some colleges, you get credit for your life experience. You don't have to go through certain things because you're already there. So we're an advanced race of beings to assist us to become as advanced as they are. Then you are going to have a different social structure. In other words, like the Star Trek series, 25th century idea of not having money, things of this nature, are something that is going to be strived towards. It may not happen right away, but then again it could, depending on what the situation allows. So you're looking at something that is different from what we have now, because this is a primary test and competition existence. So the difference is going to be one of complementary assistance to be beneficial to the whole, which is sort of a communist idea, but not really, because if you love something, you're going to like doing it, and if you got talent toward it, and you just go from there, you become a great artist, or you become someone who fits into a certain part of engineering that doesn't even exist right now. So these are the kind of things you have to look forward to. So forget the communism, forget the New World Order control. Look at it in a term of a positive timeline of freedom, your heart's desires, among other things, along with, extraordinarily advanced technology. Now, I've told these turkeys, I said, look, this is all well and good, but I require at least a ride. You're going to have to come down here and scoop me up, and we're going to have to take a little trip around the universe and enjoy. And when they get done with that, then, woo, I'll be more than satisfied at that point. I don't know if that's going to happen before we ascend or not, but I'm looking forward to all the advancements. I'm looking forward to people not being hungry or suffering any longer, and this is what we're striving towards. Okay?
All right. Thank you, Drake.
You're welcome. I think we probably are looking at sticky mute buttons.
Okay, we've got I was just bringing Ray on. We have Ray on.
Namaste. And,
hi, Ray.
Bless you all. Namaste and bless you all.
Thank you, sir.
We are in the middle of a revolution here in Alberta, in that there is a phenomenal awareness growing. And one of the things we're looking at is doing a healing lodge up here that brings all of these mental, physical, and emotional things together, as well as the herbal healings and all of that, based on cooperation rather than competition. Bringing in a number of people that have money, different talents, everything along the way, and anybody that's interested, we would invite them to join us. All centered around Camrose and Central Alberta with Hasquin, Edmonton. It's just growing outwards, and we're inviting people to pay attention, get involved, just as you are. I understand fully the metaphysical end of it. Well, not fully, but from my perspective, because I've been involved for a considerable length of time, UFOs, all of that kind of thing, and now it's time to start speaking up. And I'm just
Alfred,
pleased to be able to call in.
Excuse me, Ray, do you have a website or anything that you would like to refer people to?
I am currently experiencing low vision, and I need to get that taken care of. There will be websites coming on here, but one of the referrals I would suggest you make is Kinakwi, Kinakkwii. And if you get onto that site, there's a tremendous amount of technological advancement and stuff there. Kinakkwii stands for People of the Great Spirit. It's based on the Algonquins out of Ontario, around London, Ontario.
Yes, sir.
They have tremendous numbers. And
great.
They are more in the public law as opposed to the admiralty laws. And we have people here in Alberta that are trying to get hyperbarics, for instance, brought on stream, and so that the stem cells regrow themselves and we regenerate. And hyperbarics means high-pressured oxygen and pure oxygen breathing. Tremendous healing tool. We have another fellow from Guatemala coming in very shortly that has a cure for HIV. He's cured thousands of people using herbs. He also has a cure for diabetes. Another fellow right here in Wetaskiwin that has cures for diabetes, and I mean, all of these healing things are there and available. So I'm just so pleased that you started bringing out the metaphysical aspect of it, Drake, because it gives a platform for what's really coming. And I have no doubt of the existence of the people. I'm and as far as being over 6'6", I'm 6'5", and right now I can brush my hair on if I stand up straight.
Good deal, Ray. Ray, thank you very much. We do have a lot of Canadians that are really awakened and very interested, and if you are not, I encourage you to become a member of the Global Voice 2012 on Facebook. And we have been recently receiving several emails from people in the freedom movement that are wanting to connect with other Canadians. And you can email us at, when you do obtain information, you know, and maybe perhaps when you have, you know, places for people to connect, you can email those to us at onefreepeople@gmail.com, and it's ONEFREE people @gmail.com. And
as soon as I get my eyes back into, when I get my vision back, I'll have my balance back and everything, and regenerate my nerves. I will be definitely doing a lot more in the field, and basically mine is the idea of planting the seeds and bringing the people to it, and then moving on to the next project. I wake up in the middle of the night with knowing stuff, and there's just all kinds of ideas that have to be brought out there, because this is all new stuff that's coming, and I'm sure it's not all mine, because everybody is
awakening.
Learning, awakening, definitely.